Hi everyone and good afternoon. You're watching the newsroom on Etnow. Markets are continuing their steady up move, but first up, let's address some corporate earnings. NMDC has delivered its third quarter numbers. A good set really, good growth on the top line, margin expansion as well. Of course, accompanied by the significant price hikes taken by the company. Let's welcome on the show now Sumit Deb, CMD of NMDC. Mr. Deb, thank you so much for joining us. Lots to talk to you about actually. But first up, let's talk about the quarter gone by. 9 million tons of volumes, more than that in fact. What aided you there and what's the outlook on volumes?
The outlook looks very positive. In fact, we had lost some volumes in the Q1, but then if you look at Q2 and Q3, we almost delivered more than 10% plus in terms of volume over CPLY. And going forward in January also, we had almost the production went up by 17% odd. And Q4 looks very, very positive.
Okay. Mr. Deb, in your most recent pricing update, you've actually cut prices. I think for the first time since May that you've cut prices, lumps have come down to 5,100 rupees per ton. So what's the reason? I mean, have we peaked when it comes to iron ore pricing?
No, it's not a question of prices peaking, but then what has actually happened is that, as you are aware, iron ore prices are to an extent dependent on sponge, pellet, billet, and steel prices. So prices have corrected in terms of the steel, and especially the sponge iron and the pellet segment. There has been that's a secondary segment which has dipped substantially. So, and that is why we had to take this correction of approximately 600 rupees.
I mean, there has been that issue of additional cess, royalty. So what sort of cap do you think that could put on your realizations, if any?
In terms of royalty and cess, there is nothing. I mean, whatever we are doing right now currently, that's the levels at which we will be doing. So there's no major changes in terms of royalty and cess presently.
Okay. There were some media reports pointing out to the short-term nature of your, the lease for Doni Malai, which was recently renewed. So if you could just clarify on that front, what's the tenure of the new lease? There's been reports about also increasing the tenure of the mining operation to 20 years from the current 4 years. Any clarification in that regard? And is it at a 22.5% premium?
So what has happened is the Doni Malai initially the renewal was for 20 years, and that is what we have been requesting the state government that the lease renewal would be for 20 years, and there was no discussion on this in terms of the period of lease renewal, and that is what we have insisted and discussed with the state government also, and the state government is also on the same lines, and we do believe that Doni Malai renewal should come soon. It should come through very soon.
Okay, all right. The government's proposal to levy an additional premium on NMDC is causing some anxiety among investors. So could you clarify what's the communication like with state governments over this?
So as per even if you look at the Act also, the presently the amended MMDR Act, it has a provision for additional royalty to be paid to the state government for any sort of lease renewal on allocation basis. So that will happen, and that needs to be paid. So even the state, that is what the state of Karnataka has been requesting all along, and the central government has also will be amending the act accordingly and for payment of this additional amount.
All right. Mr. Deb, has there been any demand from the Chhattisgarh government for royalty, increase in premium similar to, or rather along the lines of what we saw, from the Karnataka government for Doni Malai?
In any case, when the government amends the act and makes a provision for payment of royalty, it will also accrue to the state of Chhattisgarh.
And when will the steel plant demerger activity be done by?
So now what we are planning to do is trying to demerge this company and make it a standalone sort of steel business as a separate entity. And we have started the process. The demerger process is already on. The advisors have been appointed, the legal advisors and the transaction advisors, and we believe that we should be able to complete it in next 4 to 5 months period. And we are on course to do that. Going forward, the steel business will be a separate business for NMDC as a part of the group.
Okay. Mr. Deb, if you could just give us a sense of what we can expect for the rest of FY21 in terms of revenues, volumes.
So I think Q4 should be good. We are looking at definitely around 35 billion tons is what we are looking at in this financial year currently. And the next financial year we should be able to do almost around 40 million tons. And to that extent, the turnover and the will also improve.
All right. Well, Mr. Deb, we'll let you go on that note. Thank you so much for joining in today on